If you were hoping that Remedy, the developer of Control and Alan Wake, could live up to its name and find a cure for CrossfireX's dreadful multiplayer sandbox, I have some bad news. Not only do both modes mostly suffer from the same issues involving gunplay and controls, but the single-player campaign's shallow stories only add to the disappointment. Both of CrossfireX's mini-campaigns are built around the pointless adventures of dull characters, never approach anything resembling a challenge due to enemy AI that's about as useful as a chocolate tea kettle, and feel incomplete and unsatisfying as they come to an abrupt end after only a few hours each. As a single-player shooter, CrossfireX is very much a bomb. CrossfireX's pair of 3-hour campaigns both feel like 100 military shooters I've played over the years and immediately forgotten. The first, Operation Catalyst, has you working with a squad of some of the most generic soldiers in recent memory, as they set out to kill a leader of the rival organization in the fictional country of Azkarzia. What follows is a bizarre mission to save one of your own squad mates while the main protagonist descends into madness, for reasons. It's still utterly unclear to me why, which is disappointing given Remedy's history for making strange characters on the edge of insanity work well.
But everything felt off, askew, as if it was somebody else's memory of my home.
Though Catalyst's story makes little sense and almost none of the moment-to-moment gunplay is engaging, switching between different squad mates is an interesting mechanic that shows its potential now and again. One of the few memorable moments has you swapping between a foot soldier trying to escape enemy capture and a sniper, so you're giving yourself cover fire. There's even a part where you have to snipe the handcuffs off of your teammate's hands to break him free, which was really satisfying. It's a concept that begged to be further explored. Instead, it ends abruptly, and the second campaign, Operation Spectre, sadly does away with the squad formula entirely and puts you in the shoes of a troubled thief who finds himself recruited by an organization known as Blacklist to become their ultimate weapon. The weird, prophetic story here is vague, predictable, and feels crammed into another tiny campaign I completed in a single sitting. There were moments in both weak stories that seemed to be flirting with the supernatural, and gave me false hope that a redeeming twist that would take this by-the-numbers shooter and turn it into something more interesting was just around the corner. In both cases, I was left with the bitter taste of disappointment.
Anybody can catch a bullet. And Christ knows they've always got thousands.
The highlight of Spectre is the final level, when it finally starts introducing some new and interesting mechanics, just before the story ends with little fanfare a few minutes later. At least most of the action looks cool. Unfortunately, weak storytelling is only the beginning of the problems in CrossfireX's single-player campaign. The real issue is it uses a slight variation of the same atrocious gunplay and controls found in the multiplayer modes. I've played a lot of shooters, and I've never experienced anything quite like this. Aiming is sloppy, no matter what settings you select. Almost every weapon feels identical to the last, and there are very few interesting mechanics to break up any of that monotony. There are 4 types of enemies: unarmored soldiers who die immediately, armored soldiers who take a few extra shots to kill, soldiers with shields who can just be shot in the legs, and drones, who seem to mostly just hover around and wait to be killed. Even if the campaigns were masterpieces of storytelling, it would still be hard to forgive just how frustrating, uninventive, and mind-numbingly dull the action is in nearly every single chapter. One of the only distinctive features is a bullet time ability that exaggerates gunfire and makes a satisfying sound for each enemy down. It even gives you some health back so you can turn the tables on the enemy when you're in a pinch. However, I was usually just disappointed at my inability to wrestle the controls to hit a target even when in slow motion. And since you get the bullet time ability back every couple of seconds, it has the added side effect of making an already unchallenging experience laughably easy. The biggest culprit behind CrossfireX's complete lack of challenge, though, is the enemy AI, which is about as effective a deterrent as red lights in Grand Theft Auto. You'll never find soldiers more expertly trained in the art of running straight into incoming gunfire with almost no resistance. I played on hard difficulty and felt entirely comfortable running and gunning even when surrounded by a dozen enemy soldiers. Even if these stormtrooper level marksmen manage to hit you, not only can you take far more damage than you might expect from a realistic style shooter, but you only need to go a second or so without getting hit by a hail of gunfire to fully recover your health, so death is extremely rare. It made strolling through both campaigns a cakewalk, and all the more forgettable. CrossfireX's pair of campaigns are untidy generic slogs, with all the excitement and flavor of a communion wafer. Alarmingly little of Remedy's signature weirdness and creativity is displayed, leaving me to wonder why this usually distinctively strange studio was chosen for such a by-the-numbers project at all. There were some hints of interesting ideas along the way where story is concerned, and I fleetingly thought we might get an eccentric tale the likes of Control or Alan Wake. But those hopes were quickly dashed when both campaigns ended without even a cursory twist. Whether it's the bland characters, braindead enemy AI, forgettable levels, or downright offensive gunplay, everything about these brief campaigns feels phoned in. Stand by for our review of the multiplayer modes, but spoiler alert, it's even worse. While you wait, check out our reviews of the single-player campaigns for Halo Infinite and Call of Duty Vanguard. And for everything else, stick with IGN.